Hey, what you say, food family? Mike here, and welcome back to the channel for another great culinary adventure. Today we're going to be reimagining a classic comfort food favorite. Or not so favorite. I'm talking about meatloaf. You love it or you hate it. But we're not making Mama's meatloaf, we're making Mike's meatloaf. We're adding bacon. We're going to be smoking it. And I got a few other tricks up my sleeve to take your meatloaf to the whole next level. If that sounds good to you, stick around and I'll show you how it's done. Let's get cooking. Alright folks, let's start off this meatloaf video by revealing a secret right off the bat, because we're not just making one meatloaf today. That'd be way too easy. We're actually going to be making two meatloafs. Yes, that's right. We're going to do a smoked bacon cheeseburger meatloaf, and we'll also do a barbecue meatloaf. Now they both basically start off the same, so we don't need to get too in depth on that just yet. We're going to start out by cooking our bacon. Now once that bacon's about halfway to 3/4 cooked, we're going to pull the bacon out and keep that grease in there and saute the onions. That adds a whole nother level of flavor that Mama's meatloaf just never had. And as you saw in that previous clip, we cooked our bacon half to about 3/4 done, just so it began to crisp up. Strain that off, saute those onions just for a couple minutes, just so they got a nice little brown color and start to turn translucent. Don't want to cook them all the way. They'll finish off in the meatloaf itself. Now that being said, we went ahead and let the onions and the bacon cool down a while. You don't want to put that in your cold meat mixture. But other than that, we're going to get started with our bacon cheeseburger meatloaf. And of course, we got our ground beef here, got about 3 or 4 pounds. We'll add our cooked onion and bacon mixture to that. That's cooled off somewhat. Set that aside. We got our eggs. Now a good rule of thumb on your eggs is you want about 1 egg per pound of meat. So 3 to 4 eggs for this batch. And you gotta have some minced garlic, of course. Can't go wrong with that. Now with that, we'll add some Worcestershire sauce. Can't go wrong with the Debbie sauce. This adds a lot of flavor, so add as much or as little as you like. Keep in mind you don't want to go too wet with your mixture, or else you'll need a lot of extra breadcrumbs. And we'll add some ketchup because it's a bacon cheeseburger meatloaf. About a half a cup here. And then we'll do about a 1/4 cup of mustard. Alright, now you don't want to add your breadcrumbs yet because you don't know if you're going to need more or less. So I'm going to go ahead and put my gloves on and we'll get this mixed up. Now you want to mix that up just enough to get that onion and bacon mixed into the mixture without overworking the meat. Otherwise you'll end up with a more dry, gross meatloaf that no one wants. So I got that basic part mixed up. Just took maybe 30-45 seconds there. I'm going to start with half my breadcrumbs. Work those in. And then we'll add the rest if we need them. Like I said, you kind of just got to get a feel for it. Each time you make a batch it's a little different depending on your liquid content. So we'll just mix this in here. Yeah, I think we'll be alright to go ahead and use them all. But basically you want to get all that extra moisture out so it's nice and tacky. Once again, don't want to overwork it too much. We're getting real close here. I think everything's mixed in well. You can see it's getting tacky, starting to stick together. Holds its form. Alright, I think we're pretty good here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my loaf pan, line that with saran wrap just to make removal easier. We'll get that set up and then we'll move on to our barbecue meatloaf. Alright, we're making meatloaf, so we're going to stuff it in the pan. It's not that hard, so just grab a handful and pack it in there nice and tight so you have a good formed shape. You don't leave any air pockets. Alright. Start to push this into all the corners. All right, as you can see, we got that packed into our loaf pan here. I got a little bit extra. I'll just hand form a small little loaf and put that out there on the grill as well. Other than that, let me get this cleaned up, and then we'll move on to getting that barbecue meatloaf ready. Well, folks, in my excitement to move on to the barbecue meatloaf, I totally forgot the most important part of a bacon cheeseburger meatloaf, the cheese. So I went ahead, pulled that back out, dumped everything back in the bowl. I'll add the cheese, a couple cups here. Get this mixed up, re-put back in the loaf pan, and then we'll move on to the barbecue meatloaf. All right, folks, now we're ready to move on to the barbecue meatloaf. Pro tip, quick tip, whatever you want to call it, go ahead and throw that meatloaf you just made in that pan in the freezer for a few minutes while you make this next batch, or for however long you need. It'll help set up. We're just using that loaf pan as a mold. We're actually not going to smoke in that. So I got that in the freezer. We'll go ahead and get this barbecue meatloaf started, and it's basically the same. I got my ground beef, but I've also added 1 pound of hot breakfast sausage just to change the flavor profile up a bit. Doing some Worcestershire sauce. We got our bacon and onions, garlic, eggs, and just like before, we'll add our breadcrumbs at the end, get everything mixed up, form that in the loaf pan as well, and then we'll get everything out in the smoker and get this stuff cooking. Alright, I got both meatloafs out in the smoker. We got the bacon cheeseburger meatloaf right here, as you can see, with that shredded cheese in it. And then on this side, we'll do the barbecue meatloaf. Now, I'm not basting either one of these yet. We're going to run the smoker at 225 to 250 degrees for 2 to 3 hours until it comes up to 140. Then we'll baste them. Now, the barbecue meatloaf will be based with barbecue sauce, obviously, and then we'll do a ketchup base for the bacon cheeseburger meatloaf. Now, put the meatloafs in. I'm just running some beef stock down below to keep everything moist, and just a generic competition blend of pellets. Nothing special for these. We just want a little bit of smoke flavor. All right, we'll get these smoking, and we'll see when we get up to 140 degrees and time to baste. All right, folks, our meatloafs have hit 140 degrees or so. You're looking at the bacon cheeseburger meatloaf here. Here's the barbecue meatloaf we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and baste these up. On the barbecue, we're just going to do some sauce. You can use whatever barbecue sauce you like. And then on the bacon cheeseburger meatloaf, we're going to do some ketchup. Something nice and simple. Alright, we got them both basted up. Nice ketchup glaze on that bacon cheeseburger meatloaf. Did some bourbon barbecue sauce on this barbecue meatloaf, just because that's what I had left over. You can use whatever you like I said. Other than that, we're going to throw these back in, let them keep cooking until they come up to 160, 165 degrees, and they'll be ready to taste test and see how we did. Alright, folks, you can see I got both these meatloafs out of the smoker. We're going to take a slice of each, make a taste test, and see how we did. Alright, folks, like I said, both of these meatloafs started off very similar in the beginning. We'll give our bacon cheeseburger meatloaf the first taste test. Let's take a quick bite here. Hands down, there's no better way to describe this than a delicious smoked cheeseburger. It's literally cheesy. You got the beef, the ketchup, the mustard. You don't put a pickle on this, you wouldn't even know it's meatloaf. So good, so good. All right, let's give this other barbecue meatloaf a taste test. See how it turned out. All right, now our barbecue smoked meatloaf, a little different. It's got that little bit of breakfast hot sausage in there, so you get a little bite to it. It's good. It's not burning your tongue, it's just got a little heat. Well, folks, both this bacon cheeseburger meatloaf and that barbecue meatloaf smoked in the smoker for a few hours both turned out pretty dang good today. So if you liked what I did here, what I made, these meatloafs, be sure to like and subscribe. Tell me how I did, leave a comment below. Other than that, Mike here signing off, and until next time, just keep cooking. We let that go another hour and a half or so till we got up to 165 degrees, so it's safe to eat. So there's nothing left to do but pull them out of the smoker. And of course, if you're going to do that, there's nothing better to use than a comically large spatula.